All right, welcome on to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome on to this Q&A. A question comes up often this time of year around Passover time. Some people, right, are cleaning and scrubbing and doing all kinds of things in preparation, preparation for Passover. So one thing to keep in mind, a few things to keep in mind. One is dust doesn't mean it's chametz, right? It doesn't mean it's anything leavened. Obviously, we got to check. A person has to check where they know they ate something. Cookie, cracker, cakes, whatever. Wherever that may be. Even a person that works in an office, they have I don't know, cubby hole, whatever, where they work from. So they have to clean that area, as well. So wherever a person knows, that, or there's a good possibility there was chometz, you have to check. Now, there's a question that comes up, and that is people sometimes like to do spring cleaning. Okay. A person can do that. Nothing wrong about it. Nothing forbidden by it, but it has, that has nothing to do with Passover, right? They want to clean, they want to do extra cleaning. Okay. Right? No one said you can't, right? But again, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Passover and getting rid of chametz, right? So you have to, you're checking places, and cleaning places that something is there. It's always a question. Let's say, do I have to move the oven? Do I have to move the oven? Do I have to move the oven to get what is underneath the oven? Yeah, so what's the answer? They say, well, a dog's not going to go there, right? Not going to be able to eat it. But let's say, I don't know, some Cheerios went there, something else, something else is there, right? If something else is there and I know it's there, then, why wouldn't I have to check? Now, person can say, listen, it's a big thing. It's kind of a pain to move it. You could, in theory, if you could see it, you could spray it, right? Spray it with some, with the, with what do you call it, with the ammonia or something like that. That'll certainly kill it. A dog would never eat it, and that's it. But if if let's say by a fridge or by an oven, not so hard to move, right? You can slide it, right? Not necessarily on wheels. Well, let's say, you can move it, and see if there's anything, anything behind there. Then you should. So, there's a question though, just throwing this out there. If you can't get to it, but you know it's there, right? If you know it's there, so do you have to check? So if you know it's there, or there's certainly potential something there, then you should check. Someone's going to say, come on, you can't get to it. No possible way, right? Dog's not going to get there. Nothing else is going to get there. So really, you don't have to. Really, once you do nullification, you say it's not mine, even if it was there. Also, but let's say you saw it there, so you can spritz it, right? You can spritz it with ammonia or something, that's gonna, take away the taste, and the dog would never eat it. I remember one year by the I would clean the car, and someone said, you got to check where back tire was. I was like, come on, nothing there. I had that time I had a 7-seater with a thing in the back. What do you call it? A bench, I guess. I guess you call it a seat or a bench. It's really a seat, really, like 2 seats there. And underneath there was the spare tire. So I was like, come on. You really think that, there's something there? Well, if you got kids there, who knows? Maybe something spilled there. Sure enough, take it off. Take the seat off, look underneath. Sure enough, pretzels. Right? Pretzels right there. That's chametz. Right? So, you got to check anywhere. You got a car. And I say every year, you should never eat in the car because it just gets gunked with stuff. But on the other hand, you're hungry, you're traveling somewhere, whatever. You want to eat something. Okay, you got to clean it. Now, what about areas in the car you can't get to? There's some areas sometimes, there's no way to get to. So, you spray it with Armor On if Armor On still exists. Whatever you spray it with something, you spray it with something, try and get to it. Whatever you get to. Same thing like in the freezer. Sometimes stuff gets underneath certain areas where you can't really get to. Okay, so you're going to spray it. You can't, certain things nowadays you can't take them apart. It used to be that, there were some freezers. Let's say you had a fridge on the bottom, freezer on the top. So some freezers you could actually take apart. You could actually, whatever, it's plastic there, whatever, that you could, there with the whatever with the screw. So like, should be able to, take it off, see if there's anything there, you clean it off. Even, you couldn't get to it, you could just, you spray it and then whatever. Like today it's probably harder to do that, except on the surface. But it also makes it a lot more fun. You got to put it back together. It's like so it's like a puzzle, right? So you take it apart. Now you see if you can actually put it back together. So I would think the older ones were easier in that sense. You could take part of it apart and just it's a good thing to clean anyway. Just stuff gets in there and it gets gunky or whatever. But again, let's say, it's like small slits in there for air or whatever, and you see like, there's got stuff in there. Okay, so you wash, you take a wet rag, put some whatever, ammonia, some cleaner on it, and try and clean as much as you can. Right? And that's it. Once you put what's it called, a cleaner on there that, is very potent. I mean, get very sick if not, if you would eat it. But a dog, again, the general rule of thumb is if a dog wouldn't go near it, wouldn't eat it, then since it's not fitting for a dog to eat, then it's not considered food. And if it's not considered food, then it's not chametz, right? So then it's not a problem. It's not food anymore, right? Once that's the whole point. Like crumbs here, crumbs there. So you try and get as much out as possible. But if you spray it, with some caustic cleaner, that would take you that would definitely take you out of the problem. Because again, something like that, a dog's never going to eat it. So, again, so you're cleaning those places. You're cleaning those places where there's chametz. What about places you can't get to? Places you can't get to, and there's no chametz there, not a problem, right? That would not be, that would not be a problem. But so you got to check. You got to do it, systematically. Right now, probably this week, I would assume most people probably, cleaning bedrooms. That's the easiest thing to clean. Clean bedrooms and whatever. And then at some point you start tackling shelves in the kitchen. The two hardest things to clean would be the kitchen in a person's living room, because he's still eating chametz, going to eat chametz over Shabbos also. So like once you designate an area where you're going to eat chametz, eat it outside on a porch somewhere. You're not going to eat chametz in the house anymore. Sometime I would say next week. So then those other areas, then you can start. Then you can clean. But obviously the hardest thing is the kitchen. And the kitchen, whatever, it's gonna, you got to break it down. It's just, overwhelming. A person could have a fridge, could have two fridges, could have a freezer, right? So whatever, at some point, you got to start doing that. Just doing it all at once, not definitely not feasible. You got to take it in, as I would say, I guess, in sound bites. You got to, you got to tackle it. You got to, do a little bit every day. But then, you got to buy Passover foods. You got to put that somewhere. So, so you got to, so what ends up happening is, when you're taking stuff out of the kitchen and you're putting Passover stuff in, it's like you're in no man's land, right? It's like an absolute mess. It's like absolutely upside down. I think I mentioned this last week or this week also, that's when Passover's here. Not just the expensive food and all that, but You see like just boxes all over the place and stuff like you're not fully, kids are not ready fully for Passover, but you're limiting chametz and wherever you're going to eat it. And so, yeah, it's a big, usually for a few days, it's a big, it's a huge mess. And certainly this year, by next Shabbos, it has to be done. Everything has to be done on Shabbos. You'll be cooking. You'll have Passover food because you can't eat bread. I mean, you have to eat breads. On Shabbos, you definitely have to have bread on Shabbos. So most people probably eat pita, and then whatever pita you have left over, you just flush it down the toilet on Shabbos, and you get rid of it. Somebody asked, according to the Mishnah, it's an obligation to drink 4 cups of wine during the Seder. Some sources speak of possibly a 5th cup. They're not sources speak about it. There is a 5th cup, right? There is definitely a 5th cup, which is I will bring you to the land. Oh, you're talking about that, not a. Is that related to the 5th cup of Elijah's prophet? No, 5th cup of Elijah's prophet totally different. There's difference of opinion. Why there's not a 5th cup? Because the reason you have 4 cups, as the rabbis learn out, you get 4 languages of redemption in the book of Exodus, right in a row. You got 4 languages of redemption. It's really 5. It's really 5 altogether. So the question is, what about the 5th cup? Right? What about that 5th verse? So that 5th verse sort of gets bounced, and you only have 4. Right? We only have 4 cups, but that 5th cup is not. And as far as I know, it doesn't relate. It doesn't relate to Elijah the prophet. Elijah the prophet is a different thing, right? That 5th cup you have, whether it would be that verse talking about redemption or not. So it's interesting because when you go through the Haggadah, what does the Haggadah represent? All right, coming out of Egypt. So you have, you talk about the plagues, talk about the fact that if God wouldn't take us out, we'd still be there. No one ever escaped, and the Jews would never have escaped. So God did it through himself, not through an angel, not through an intermediary, right? All that. So you're working your way, through the Haggadah, and you have the 1st cup that has to do with Kiddush. 2nd cup is on the Haggadah itself, telling over the story. And you got the 3rd cup for Birkas Hamazon, for grace after meals, and you got the last cup, and then the 5th cup. By the last cup, you pour the 5th cup already for Elijah the prophet. But usually there's no. So you're talking about redemption in the sense of coming out of Egypt, right? That's what we're commemorating. At Seder in the entire week. And the last cup is commemorating the fact that it's going to be a future redemption, right? And that future redemption, that's going to come with Elijah the prophet. That's going to come with Elijah the prophet, and Elijah the prophet is going to come back, and as prophets tell us, he's going to announce the coming of the Messiah, and he's going to a bunch of other things he's going to do also. A lot of cases where the Gemara says it doesn't come to a conclusion, a definitive conclusion. What they call in the Gemara teku, that which is a reference to the fact that Isaiah is going to Elijah, that Eliyahu Navi is going to come and answer up all these questions that were not. That weren't answered at that time. Probably tell everyone, which tribe they're in, they survived. Few other things, probably, but the most important thing he's going to do is announce the coming of the Messiah. Now, everyone's going to acknowledge he is Elijah the prophet. There's not going to be any doubts. Not going to be any doubts about that. And part of his job is to announce this person is this person is the Messiah. So you got 2 things. You got 2 things going on at the same time, which is kind of interesting in and of itself. And that is you have the exit from Egypt, right? Because that's the theme of the day. And you have at the same time, you have the future redemption, which, in this generation, it's pretty clear that we are in the era of the coming of the Messiah. So now it's just a matter of when. And the Messiah has to come. There's 6,000 years, right? As the Ramban and others were, the first, days of creation were 1,000 years. So you get 6,000 years, and that's when the world ends. And you get another 1,000 years where, same as the Gemara says, I don't know, people will be flying around. Who knows what they'll be doing for 1,000 years? And then God rebuilds the world, and you have resurrection of the dead. Right? Don't question exactly the order of Olam Haba, the next world, comes after the Messiah or after the world's destroyed. And then, anyone who's supposed to have a portion of the world to come, will come back. And then you have resurrection. Usually it's going down, resurrection of the dead comes later, it comes at the end, right? It's going to be the last thing. But whatever, the whole discussion of, what's supposed to be and how it's supposed to be, and all that, it's just interesting in and of itself, the fact that you have two things going on. You have the Exodus itself, right, commemorating that in the miracles, and you have the future, future redemption. Again, so within those 6,000 years, so the Messiah has to come. By hook or by crook, he's got to come. All right, so we're we got another 200 some odd years. So it's just a matter of time when. But there's a lot of knocking at the door right now. And so it's just a question of when and how it's all going to take place, which nobody knows. Right. So, and anyone who does know, they ain't talking. Right. They certainly not talking, but it could happen today, tomorrow, next day. Well, it's not going to happen on Shabbos, but it'll happen after Shabbos. But in general, nobody knows. Nobody knows when it's going to be. Nobody knows how it's going to be. One major mystery. Someone asks. Okay, one second. Yeah, somebody asks. Noahide and aspiring JIT. A Jew in training, as I would say. Use the shower to cleanse after late. Okay. You don't have access to a mikveh. You don't have to go to a mikveh. Shower's obviously not natural running water, though you wet all parts of the body. Yeah, the woman obviously she doesn't have to go to the mikveh, there's no question. Afterwards, that's not an issue. Guy, there's the cut of Ezra. There's a decree of Ezra that many decrees of Ezra, right? One of them is that there's an obligation to hear the Torah 3 times during the week, right? Which we do, which is Monday, Thursday, and on Shabbos. Why Monday, Thursday? Because you don't go 2 days without hearing words of Torah. So you got Monday, Thursday, and you have Shabbos. Now, another takana that someone whatever had relations, and spilled seeds, so they would have to go to the mikvah, otherwise you can't learn Torah. You wouldn't be allowed to learn Torah. So in this case, I take a survey how many people are stringent on it. I mean, if you're Hasidic, then they go to the mikveh every day anyway. So it doesn't matter. But if you're not Hasidic, why do they do it? They do it for extra holiness. Very good. Right? Now, that could coincide, if they're together with their spouse, so they would go to the mikveh the next day, but, sometimes it might be kind of impractical, to do that for different reasons. So, how many really adhere to it? I don't know. I didn't take I didn't take a survey on that, but a person couldn't get to the mikveh, let's say a guy, right? Couldn't get to the mikveh, then, pouring, water that's coming from a shower or whatever, pouring water, a certain amount of water on should, would help, definitely help. So, that would seemingly, take care of that, problem. But again, in either case, the person did it. Yeah. So you say, well, what about the decree of Ezra? Okay, that's saying everyone holds of it. That everyone, in this case, right? Hearing the Torah 3 times a week, we do. Everybody does, right? Every guy who goes to synagogue will hear the Torah 3 times. Women doesn't apply, right? Women wouldn't apply. So going, it's good. Again, in this case, after relation, you have an obligation. All right, it's a good thing to do, but do people do it? Don't know. I would. I don't know. I'm not going to say. I would think. I would think most people don't. I would think most people don't, unless they're Hasidic and they go to the mikveh anyway, right? But pouring water on yourself would take care of that problem. Would potentially take care of that problem. Now, in that case, would it be forbidden? Would it be forbidden to go to the mikveh? Would it be forbidden to learn Torah? Or not? So it's a good question. So that's a good question, right? That's a good question. So in general, why don't people do it? Someone has a seminal omission. It's called the Baal Keri, right? That's what it's called in Hebrew. It's called the Baal Keri. It's called the Baal Keri. So at the time of the temple, that if someone spilled seed, and again in a permissible way, or even not in a permissible way, right? At the time of the temple, they'd have to go to a mikveh, right? The Torah says very clear, Leviticus chapter 15, verse 19. That's what you have to do, right? In order to become pure, you have to immerse. So today, why don't people do it? Because again, we're in a state of impurity anyway. Without even if you go to the mikveh, you're still in a state of impurity. The only thing a mikveh helps for, in general, as a state of purity, is that after a woman has a period, see 7 clean days, then she would go to the mikveh, be permitted to her husband. That's about the only thing. That's about the only thing it fixes up. So therefore, for a guy, it's not gonna help, right? Seemingly, it's not gonna help over here. And the reason is because again, the mikveh is not gonna help because you don't have a temple, right? So that's why it wouldn't apply. This level of impurity, we're not going to. I've had people argue, and I've spoken about this before, but people have argued. So let's rebuild the temple. Well, we don't have the Messiah, can't do that. But let's go back to temple obligations. Temple laws, the purity and impurity. It's beautiful. It's a great idea. There's only one problem. A massive problem. What's the massive problem? You don't have a temple today. You need the Beis Hamikdash. You need the temple. The temple's not rebuilt. You can't do it, right? So therefore, according to this, the decree of Ezra will say, okay, so you got to go to the mikvah. Very good. That's going to take away the Torah itself says, Leviticus chapter 15, verse 19, a person has seminal omission. That's what you have to do. You have to go to the mikvah for a guy. Very good. Yeah, there's only one problem. That's when the temple existed. Temple doesn't exist anymore. So you say go to the mikveh anyway, get some level of purity, but doesn't take it away. We're not on that level of purity because we don't have the temple. The fact that the temple existed gave us that level of purity. Yeah, and that the mikveh would take away. Good. Or the mikveh would help in making someone pure in this case, but I don't have that. So since we don't have it, since we don't have the temple, so that's one reason. One reason that even a person that has seminal omission, you don't have to go to the mikveh, and then you could learn Torah and do other things. Second question: person has foot fungus. Yeah, I can relate. Question is it dreaded skin disease, and can I pray? Why not? Also, mold in my house. No rabbi is going to come and inspect it. Well, what does mold have to do with anything? right? Two different things. Person that has fungus, that a lot of people suffer from, either athlete's foot or nail fungus, and a lot of times, like nails come off, they're discolored. So some say, you take a blood test or you cut off, a nail, they analyze it, they'll tell you what bacteria it is, right? So some conventional doctors will say, so you take antibiotics. Yeah, others will say, it doesn't get rid of the problem. They have it doesn't, whatever. Some will say it helps, some say it doesn't help. So, it's not going to kill you by any stretch, right? It's annoying, they look bad, right? So something more, I guess, natural remedies, they have, I don't know if they work, they don't work. Some say put your foot in cider and some other things. I don't know, whatever it is. But, I do know that some definitely say, like, very hard. Like, it's very, very hard to get rid of. And, like, what's the point of taking antibiotics if, it just keeps coming back and it's not going to stop? What's the worst case? What's the worst case? Worst case scenario is it just looks bad, right? You have discolored toes and whatever, toenails or whatever. And maybe sometimes the toenails come off, so they grow back eventually, but like, okay, this discoloring, it looks bad. Okay. So first of all, your foot's covered, right? Even if it wasn't covered, could I pray? Could I, your foot should be covered when you pray. Let's say like that. It should be covered, even if you're wearing sandals. It should be covered. Foot should be covered. Now, let's say your foot wasn't covered, right? And, you get discolored nails. Yeah. Again, I wouldn't tell people to pray that way. For sure not. I think feet should be covered anyway, any case. But if they weren't, what's again? Could I pray? I could. Like nothing to do, right? What are you supposed to do? You say, "Well, I tried this, I tried that, didn't go away." Okay, yeah, so you can pray that way. It's not a problem. Also, mold in my house, no rabbi is going to come and inspect it. So who cares? What does mold have to do with anything, right? Mold is not saras, right? Saras is something else. We don't, the Torah goes into great detail about saras on the house. Right? I gave class on that in the book of Leviticus, or whatever, a lot of classes on that. Exactly, how it works, how it manifests. A person can have saras, translated as leprosy, but it's some sort of skin disease that has to do with speaking Lashon Hara, right? That's speaking badly against others. And the only way it goes off is you truly repent. The time of the temple, they would, you would go outside the camp and the Kohen would come back a week later, see if you still have the spots and what type of spots and whatever. So if the only way, again, no medication would help, no bribing anybody would help. This is a truly spiritual disease. So if a person truly repented, it goes away. 100%, it would go away. But, it's kind of embarrassing also. You're outside the camp, right? With the family. You're totally isolated. Now, what's the purpose of isolation? The purpose of isolation is repentance. Have remorse, have regret, right? If a person had true remorse, then when the Kohen comes back a week later, what's he going to see? It's gone, right? Then it'd be permitted. Then it'd be permitted to, basically go home. But we don't see it today, right? We don't have it today. Now, it could be, person, after a person dies, could be their soul, maybe affected by it somehow, but we don't see it physically, right? We definitely don't see it. And leprosy is not really, good. I wouldn't say it's such a great translation. That's how they translate it, but I wouldn't call it such a great translation. But all it means is it's some sort of skin disease. And the only reason you get it is because the person spoke Lashon Hara, right? It's the only reason you got it. Now, in time of the temple, it could have affected your house. You could have, you could have had, spots different places in the house. You could have had spots on your clothing. You could have had spots on your body, right? You say the obvious on your body. Well, okay, but it doesn't necessarily have to be on your body, right? If it's in your house, then you got a problem. If it's on your clothing, you have a problem, obviously it's on your body as well. So that has nothing to do with mold. I don't know why mold would be an issue. It's not leprosy, right? It's not psoriasis. It's not psoriasis, right? So why would someone go check it? There's no point to check it. Mold is mold. Again, mold is certainly not good, and certainly can be dangerous depending on how much mold is there. But why does anyone need to check it? It has nothing to do with psoriasis or anything else. Next question. Someone asks, "What if I don't drink alcohol? How am I supposed to drink wine?" Requirements. So you don't have to. You can drink grape juice. You don't have to drink wine. You can drink grape juice. Better drink wine, but if you can't drink, you can't drink it. They have wine on the market that's like, it's got very little alcohol in it. I mean, you fulfill the obligation. It's like 3%, right? It's like 3% alcohol, right? So it is now. A woman certainly doesn't have to drink, 4 cups of wine. She wants to, she could, right? But she can drink grape juice. Children certainly drink grape juice. I mean, men should really drink wine. If you can't drink wine, okay, right? If you can't drink wine, you drink grape juice. But wine affects different people different ways, right? I would say that there's wine on the market that's very little alcohol. Now, someone says, "I don't like wine at all, even if it has 3% alcohol," right? I would call that a wine cooler, right? It's back in the day. People remember wine coolers. 3% not going to affect someone that much, right? But a person can say, "I don't like wine at all. Not 1%, not 3%. I don't like wine." Okay, so so then they can drink grape juice, right? They certainly can drink. They can drink grape juice. That's not it's not a problem. But if you could stand it or withstand it, even at a very low dosage, i.e., at 3%, then I would say you should try and do it. But again, it's going to make someone sick. They don't really like it. They don't have to, right? Essentially, you don't have to. Why are some people drawing a Kabbalah over Tanakh? Oh, good question. When Tanakh is the foundation. So let me ask you. There are a lot of people got involved in Judaism when I was in Santiago, when I was in Chile, and many years ago. And a lot of people got involved, a lot of Jews. I don't know if there are any non-Jews at this Kabbalah Center, but there was a Kabbalah Center there. And a lot of Jews got into Judaism through Kabbalah. So I gave a class before Passover. I didn't even have any, all my boxes hadn't come yet. Boat was still on its way. So I only got everything like, after Passover, like by, a month afterwards or whatever. But so I spoke about Passover. Started in Spanish, then people understood Hebrew, so I spoke in Hebrew. Then I went to English. Then I went back to Spanish. Anyway, I spoke about some deep things about about Passover. And at the end, since I knew everybody got interested in Judaism through Kabbalah, I said, I was there for like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. I took a break in the middle and they ate and other things. So I said at the end, I said, I just want everybody to know. I said, everything I spoke about today had, in a relatively deep way, I said, had nothing to do with Kabbalah. If I wanted to show there's depth to Torah, like a lot of depth to Torah, right, without Kabbalah. Now, you ask me, why are people more drawn to Kabbalah over Tanakh? Now, Tanakh's not so easy to go through. And I've mentioned this before. There, you see different things, different stories that you think, well, at face value, maybe it means this or it means that. The example is the story with David and Bathsheba. And the Gemara says, anyone says David sinned, and making a mistake. So now what's going on? Right? You look at Psalm 51 and Nathan seems to chastise David to make him understand that something wasn't right here, right? But people make a mistake. He took a married woman. Now, when Uriah Hittite went out to war, before he went out to war, he's married to Bathsheba. Anyone who went out to war wrote a bill of divorce, wrote a get, retroactive get. In other words, if I don't come back, you're divorced. Okay. Now, King David sent him to the front lines. Now, that also looked bad. Why did he send him to the front lines? So he was Mord b'malchus. He was a rebel against the king, did certain things against the king. So what's the punishment for going against the king? Death penalty. So what did he do? He sent him to the front. Now, that's a good way to, it's pretty guaranteed. You go to the front, you're probably not coming back. So in either case, he wasn't considered married to her, so she was permitted to him. And not only that, Uriah Hittite deserved to die. Deserved to die. So that's what he did. Now, if you look at the verses themselves, what does it look like at face value without knowing anything? It looked like he did something wrong. He got tempted by seeing her, and he took her and he killed her husband. Right? At face value, it looks bad. Now, you're going to say, as righteous as he was, how could he have done such a thing? This and that. Good question. But what did he do wrong? Technically speaking, what did he do wrong? She's not married. She's considered divorced because he's not coming back. Retroactively, she's divorced. So he can take her. And he can be with her. Yeah, you could say, they have a son, Shlomo, whatever. So you can say, oh, because of him, the whole kingdom got split. So you see, it wasn't a good thing. You could say that, right? But again, technically speaking, did he do anything wrong? Now, there's a lot of depth here, what's going on and what's going on behind the scenes. A lot of things in the Torah like that, a lot of things in Tanakh like that. Most people are not going there. They'll say, I already know the story, I read it, this, that. What does Kabbalah do? There are 4 ways to learn Torah. It's called Pardes, Pshat, Remez, Drash, and Sod. Pshat means simple explanation, like Rashi does, on the Parsha many times, at the book of Genesis. A lot of times he says, I can't explain it according to simple explanation when he's talking about creation because, it's very hard to understand. So he goes to homiletic interpretation, not Kabbalah per se, use Midrashim. So you got Pshat, Drash, which is homiletic interpretation. After Drash, you have, Pshat, Remez, Pardes, Pshat, Remez, you have a hint. There are hints in the Torah, right? It says like this, so it means like that. It doesn't necessarily, it doesn't mean that simple explanation, right? There's a hint. A lot of times, the Gemara will say, where does it say this? Where does this law come from? It says, well, I don't have anything explicit, but I have a hint. I have a hint in the Torah because the verse says like this, so it implies like this and like this. So a lot of times you have hints. Then you have drash, which is homiletic interpretation, and then the fourth way is sod, which is Kabbalah. Which is looking at it in a totally different way, right? It's not necessarily homiletic, but it's looking at it, in a much deeper way. Now, when a person's learning Kabbalah in general, if they're eating, if they're quote unquote learning Kabbalah, what's the draw? What's the draw? So here's some Kabbalistic ideas, even if it's watered down, makes you feel like you're walking on air. Makes you feel like you're on a different planet. Yeah. You talk about, Nefesh Chaim mentions the Rav Chaim of Volozhin, wrote this book, Nefesh Chaim, famous student of the Vilna Gaon more than 250 years ago, head of the yeshiva in Volozhin. And he wrote this book, a lot of it according to Kabbalah. But one of the things he writes, there's you think your actions don't matter. So what does he say? Let's look at what Adam and Eve did from eating, for the tree. So what was the tree of knowledge? So he brings this whole thing, like, a lot of it in the first 3 gates, a lot of what he brings down is according to Kabbalah. And most people just learn the 4th gate, which is about the importance of learning Torah. But he says over there What does the tree represent? Tree represents all the spiritual worlds. In other words, Adam and Eve ate from the trees. Not just they brought death to the world. That was one thing, but they messed up. They messed up all the spiritual worlds. So how do you fix all the spiritual worlds? By doing mitzvahs. So it's a lot complicated. A lot more complicated. Okay. Now, something like that, you go a little bit deeper, you understand, how spiritual worlds work and how they're attached and how they're all messed up or whatever. Whatever. There's a lot to speak about there. Yeah. You hear something like that, then, opens your mind. Just think about it. Wow, there's a lot going on, and more than I thought. It's talking about spiritual world and how I fix it and what I do and how I think and how okay, that makes you feel like you're walking on air. Very good. It's only one problem. The only problem is most people are going to get exposed to this. Like Esther or Madonna, she calls herself, whatever. Yeah, it's like it's very esoteric. It's very you feel like you're another planet. Okay, but there's a problem. What's the problem? Problem is, if you don't know the Aleph base, if you don't know the Aleph base, you're not really learning Kabbalah because you need to have a foundation, right? That's why it's brought down. You got to be at least over 40, but you have to have learned a lot of Torah. And even Kabbalists that going to learn a lot of Torah, you got to be on a high spiritual level to do it. So the Kabbalah people are getting in general is very watered down, extremely watered down, I would think. But you're going to be holding somewhere in the world. I hear people talk about it, and I'm like, come on, you don't understand a single word you just said. Right? It's impossible. Why do I say impossible? Very bright people, but you know what they say? If you don't study, calculus, right? If you want to study calculus, you can't do it without algebra, trigonometry. If you want to learn how to walk, you can't do it, or run, you can't do it without learning how to walk or crawl, right? So you need a base. Right? You need a very, very strong base. But that's one thing. The other thing you need is, to be on a spiritual level. Also. So why are people attracted to it? Very simple. Yeah, because it's a lot deeper than other things. And it makes you feel like, spiritual worlds, other things, how things work, what's really going on, all these things. If you tell somebody something that is like totally forbidden, you should never look at it, right? You should never study it. What's the first thing they want to do? Study it, right? But that's a lot more interesting, quote unquote, than trying to break your head on what what Rashi's saying, or what the Ramban's saying, or what a piece of Gemara is saying. It's there are people attracted to it. I'm not saying not, but you gotta be somewhere. You got to be somewhere, and it's going to take you, a long time. It's a totally different language, right? It is in Aramaic, right? Just like the Gemara is in Aramaic, but it's like, the Aramaic is very hard to go through, right? Obviously, you need someone, to teach you, but something that makes you feel like you're walking on air. Why wouldn't someone want to, like get into the secrets of the universe? But again, the problem is you got to be ready for it, right? So I had somebody. A friend of mine I went to university with that, was finishing his quote unquote his rabbinic ordination, Hebrew University. And one of the courses he was taking was about Kabbalah. So I said, he studied at the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York. I had the conservative movement. So I said, oh, you're studying about it? He's like, no. Because they never studied the topic itself because no one knows anything there. So they study about the topic. Okay. So in this case, he says, well, if I'm going to be a heretic, I should know what I'm being a heretic about. So I said, it's very funny. I said, Madonna also learns Kabbalah. I said, she doesn't know the Aleph base. I said, if she can learn Kabbalah, I said, you could also learn Kabbalah. So he's like, oh, that's very funny. I said, yeah, but I wasn't joking. I was like, come on, you never learned to tractate Talmud in your life. You don't know how to learn. You basically never learned anything. So like, why would I think you're really learning about Kabbalah? Right? So that was that. But, it is interesting. And it's very deep. Some people, they're attracted to that more than other things. Okay. But you need the base. If you don't have the base, I say this all the time. If you don't have the base, then it doesn't help. You're not going to get what you want out of it anyway. And I don't believe these people learning Kabbalah in the first place. But, I do see sometimes, people bring up things. I just scratch my head. I'm like, come on. Like, you really know what it means? You're going to sit there for 20 minutes explaining it to me? Come on. Very hard for me to imagine. See, if someone's on the level, good. If they've learned it, they learned it by somebody. They're holding some in the world. Okay. Do I think a non-Jew's never learned anything or barely learned anything? They're learning Kabbalah? I don't think so. But it's a big attraction. It's a big attraction. I mean, I've been learning Tanakh for years. I'm still holding, in Isaiah. But you look at the commentaries and what's going on, and there's a lot of depth there. There's definitely a lot of depth there. But people aren't going to touch it. They just think, oh, I knew that story, right? Yeah, I know somebody said, what do I have to learn Tanakh? A secular Jew says, I learned those stories before. I know what's going on, but they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue what's going on, behind the scenes. Even in Torah, people say, yeah, I learned Torah, whatever. So I say, I know the stories. Okay, Lot's got 2 daughters, right? There's incest. He has a child, right? One daughter has a child. It's called Moab, right? Me'av, right? From my father. I guess she wasn't necessarily so modest. Okay. Who comes out of Moab? Ruth. Everyone agrees. Ruth is whatever, daughter, granddaughter, whatever, the question of lineage, but she's related to the king of Moab. Very good. No one doubts that. 3 generations later, 4 generations later, comes King David. Isn't that strange? I mean, that's extremely strange. That the future Messiah that has to go through the Davidic line, right? And Christians also have to believe this, because the Messiah, their Messiah, quote unquote, also same thing, has to come through King David. Very good. Yeah. How can King David come from that line? Forget about Ruth and whether she's Jewish or not Jewish. That's not even the question. Ruth came from an incestuous relationship. That everyone agrees. That nobody disagrees. Isn't it a little strange? The future Messiah of the Jewish people, the great King David himself, came from an incestuous relationship. It's a little bit weird. And then you got the story of Tamar and Yehuda. He has 2 sons. They both die. So he hides the son away. She gets sent to her father's house. She sees that he's not giving over the son, so he's on his way, I don't know, grazing sheep, whatever. Someone tells her he's on the way. She dresses up as a prostitute, and he hooks up with her, this, that, and she has 2 kids. And we see that from the tribe of Judah, the scepter never leaves the tribe of Judah, but kingship comes from his relationship with Tamar. Now, the whole question, whether he stayed together with her, he didn't stay together with her afterwards, but because it was a forbidden relationship, right? Even though it was before the Torah was given, you could say, okay, right, it's still permissible, father-in-law and daughter-in-law, very good. But you see that the kingship never leaves the tribe of Yehuda, of Judah. So I told someone, I said, well, it's kind of ironic. That's the way it happened. So they asked me, goes, okay, Rabbi, what's your point? I said, my point is, I don't think you know the Torah as well you think you do. Because there are a lot more things going on behind the scenes you don't know. You can read it and know it backwards and forwards. You can repeat it like a parrot, but that's all you are, is a parrot. Because you don't understand what's going on. Right? So, one of my rabbis of blessed memory, very much steeped in Kabbalah, once told me that the Arizal, Rabbi Gloria, blessed memory, major commentator on the Zohar, says that he's got a book called Sefer Gilgulim, right? The book of reincarnated souls. So he goes through through Tanakh of who's related to who and what's going on behind the scenes. Basically said you have to have a lot of fear of heaven, tremendous amount of fear of heaven going through this book. Yeah, and the reason is because you'll see certain things, you'll hear certain things, and it's just mind-boggling. Just mind-boggling, what's really going on behind the scenes. So wouldn't everyone want to learn that? Is it so esoteric? Sure. Yeah, first of all, you're going to be holding somewhere in the world. Second of all, a lot of it you're not going to gather or really understand unless you know the base behind it. And if you don't know the base behind it, you can tell me learning Kabbalah till you're blue in the face. It doesn't mean that. You won't know the basis of what's going on. But it's a big attraction. 100%. 100% is a big attraction because you're talking about things that make you feel like you're walking on air. Somebody asks, I'm allowed to eat seedless grapes. Why not? What's the problem? If you would ask, can you eat something that is grafted? You think, somebody, Jew or non-Jew, which is forbidden to do even for non-Jews, right? To take a peach and a plum, put them together, make a nectarine, right? That is forbidden. It's Torah prohibition for Jews and non-Jews. For non-Jews, even under the Noahide law, it's not death penalty, but it's still forbidden. But you're allowed to get benefit. You're allowed to eat from it. So that, even though you did something forbidden, you're allowed to eat from it, right? So grapes, what would be the problem? What would be the problem even if they were seeds, right? Even if they were seeds, not a problem, right? The only issue with seeds would be if you're eating them on Shabbos. If a Jew's eating them on Shabbos, can I take out the seed? Is that borer? That's selection, right? I'm taking the bad from the good, right? So now the question is how you did it. If you put it in your mouth, you take out the seed, that's fine, because that's the way you eat, right? But if you cut up a grape, if you cut up a grape and you take out the bad from the good, that's a problem, right? So if it's got seeds on Shabbos, and it's Shabbos, that's a problem. During the week wouldn't be a problem with seeds or without seeds, right? So, it's not grafted, not something that's grafted, even if it would be. Even if it would be something grafted, right? I don't know, something put together to make it. Yeah, two things that you're not allowed to put together. You're still allowed to derive benefit from it. It is interesting, just on that topic, if you have a what do you call it? You put together a horse and a donkey, right? Put together, which is forbidden. But you put a horse and a donkey together, what do you get? You get a mule, right? Mule is a very strong animal, right? Very, very strong animal. Yeah, tremendous. There's only one problem. What happens to a mule? Sterile, right? Totally, totally sterile. Now, non-Jews not allowed to do this because you're playing with creation, right? Just like Jews can't do it, non-Jews also not allowed to do it, right? Now, is it a coincidence that a mule is sterile? It's a tremendously strong animal, right? No one doubts that. There's only one problem: it can't reproduce. Now, is that a consequence of playing with is that a what do you call it? A consequence? I would say it's a consequence, right? Right? It's a consequence. Yeah, definitely a consequence. You're playing with creation. Who gives you the right to play with creation? Say people do it. Okay. I mean, God stopped it, right? God doesn't have to stop everything. Sometimes he does, right? But he allowed it to happen. Very good. So he allowed a person to do it. He didn't stop them. Okay. Now what's the problem though? What's the obvious problem? The obvious problem is it's sterile. Again, if someone would ask, is that a direct punishment? I would think it is. Now, then why'd God do it? Good question. He allowed mules to be in the world. Okay. With a little caveat, I'll put a asterisk there, right? He allowed it to be there, but he made it sterile. Yeah. So that's direct consequence. Yeah. So someone said many years ago, non-Orthodox Jew, but he said, I'm going to get there one day. I'm still at the beginning of the book of Leviticus chapter 18. It's towards the end where it talks about homosexuality. But someone wanted to claim, someone wanted to say that it is kind of ironic. Kind of ironic that someone want to make the claim and say that you're going to say that someone that practicing homosexual AIDS is a direct result. Well, it can be. I mean, I don't think that's a leap of faith. You can definitely get AIDS, big epidemic. Back in the day. I mean, still people dying of AIDS today, right? But it definitely can happen. Unprotected sex can happen. You get it through, what do you call it? Say about blood transfusion. You get it through sharing needles, whatever, with drugs, other things. All right, different ways to get it. Very good, very, very good. But in this case, you get it by unprotected sex being homosexual. He's like, and if you think that's a direct result, you got a better answer? I said, I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, I'm not, it's not a leap of faith. They're saying that's how you get it. It's one way to get it. Oh, come on, that's great. Okay, so you go argue with doctors. That's what radical doctors are saying. I'm not talking witch doctors. I'm talking about, homeopaths and whatever, right? That's what they're saying. You don't believe in doctors now. They don't have the right idea. They're out to lunch. I think it's a pretty direct result. The person like, oh, you've been totally brainwashed. It's like, thank God. Yeah, we all need a little bit of brainwashing, but think about it. If something's a direct result, you know, you can't say, well, it didn't know. Well, it's not true. What do you mean? I'm saying if you know and it's proven, that's a direct result. It can happen with unprotected sex, with heterosexuals, a man and a woman. It can happen that way also. She has it, she didn't know she had it, she can transmit it. Okay. Right? That's definitely true. Right? But it was proven, and still probably, right? Still probably that you get it through homosexual activity. That's a direct result. That's not, not being homophobic, right? It's forbidden. Okay. No, I'm not gonna say it's not forbidden. It's totally forbidden. Torah says it's forbidden. Very good. So, but there's a result. There's a result of the action. You can't tell me, well, they just came, that this person, was homosexual, he just got it, right? He got it out of the blue. He didn't get it out of the blue. That didn't happen. Yeah. Yeah, it's caused, so you can tell me it can be caused by other ways. Maybe, but this is pretty direct. I would say it's pretty direct. It's not a leap of faith. A person like that was out to lunch. I mean, think whatever he wants. It's fine, but it is um um yeah, it's an interesting thing. Somebody points out that a person goes to Chabad, and I have nothing personal against Chabad. I think they do a lot of great work, and a lot of times, what are they gonna teach? What are they gonna teach people? They're not necessarily gonna teach them, non-Jews. They're not necessarily gonna teach them, to convert. That's not necessarily what they do. They may teach them, I don't know, some of the Noahide laws or whatever. But what's something that they do teach that they want to teach to everybody? And that's Tanya. That's the book of the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Tanya, right? The first Lubavitcher Rebbe. Very good. I mean, massive, rabbinic scholar, no question about it. But Tanya is a very hard book to go through, right? It's a very hard book to go through, and it mixes in a lot of Hasidus with Kabbalah. But first of all, you got to be relatively steeped in Hasidus to go through it. It's not the first book a person would go through to learn Hasidus. It's a lot more complicated, but at the same time, it's also interwoven there with Kabbalah. So, I think it'd be hard enough for Jews with no background, to go through, even though there are people that can, to explain it and, water it down to, bring it down to this world, to explain it to them. Okay. But again, I wouldn't say that's the first book I would teach them, but obviously, Chabad's very big in having, Chabad rabbis of previous generations, going through their stuff, going through their material, going through their books. And I'm not, I'm talking about, big rabbinic scholars, and he was definitely big rabbinic scholars, no question. Right. There's no question. Would it be the first book I would recommend a non-Jew to read? No. Not, certainly not in Hasidus. Right. And people think I'm crazy for recommending the book Derech Hashem, The Way of God. It's also a book by the Ramchal, very much steeped in Kabbalah, why God created the world, the purpose of man, how the inclination works, what the world looked like before Adam and Eve sinned, spiritual forces, purpose of non-Jews. I mean, most Jews don't go through it. It's a hard book to go through. It's very flowery language in Hebrew, even the English is kind of hard to go through sometimes, right? But just to get a base understanding of how the world works, it's a game changer. The book is an absolute game changer. I gave class on it twice. It's an absolute game changer. I don't think there's any question, right? So you say, well, why would you recommend that over Tanya? It's two totally different books, two totally different things. Yeah, this is a book based in what am I doing in the world? And what's my purpose in the world? And how should I live my life? Yeah, and look at the world. It's a game changer. It's an absolute game changer. Yeah. All right. Tanya has its place. I'm not saying it doesn't. Right. I'm just pointing out that, it's not the first book. It's not the first book in Hasidus I would turn to or I would tell people to turn to. And yeah, Hasidus mix them with Kabbalah. It's, again, people say, yeah, I listen to Tanya every day, a bit a day and whatever. And it does this for me and that for me. Okay. So I'm saying if someone, I also had the ability to, take these Kabbalistic concepts, which I didn't go into the Kabbalah at all, but just trying to bring it down, every day, what it means and what we should take out of it. Okay. Yeah. But these are basic things. These are basic things I think everyone needs to know. I think it'd be a game changer for everyone. Just change the way you look at the world, which is huge. Which is a huge thing. This is different. It's not the same thing. This is, even if you could water it down and this and that, it's like trying to take a concept, trying to take like a major concept. Let's say a person would take a major Kabbalistic concept. Yeah, I'll give you one example. Person take the concept God in Exodus chapter 25, verse 8. The Torah says that God wants to dwell amongst the Jewish people. God says, make me a Mishkan so I can dwell amongst you. How are you going to put God in a box? I don't care if the box is like 3 football fields long. Yeah, you're talking about something humongous. Okay, you take it down, you put it up, all the beams and the loops and the clasps and whatever. Very good. God is an omnipotent. He's everywhere. He's everywhere in the entire universe. How in the world he represents the universe and beyond the universe, right? You can walk out of black holes. You can do anything. Yeah, how in the world are you going to put him in a box? How are you going to bring him down to this world when he's infinite and put him in a box? How are you going to put him in a box? So that's the idea of Tzimtzum, right? The God somehow constricted himself, put himself in this world, whatever. It's a major Kabbalistic concept. Yeah. Now, you got to take that concept and explain. You got to explain, first of all, what does it mean he wants to dwell amongst the Jewish people? That's hard enough to understand in and of itself. Because he's an omnipresent being, right? He's omnipotent. Where are you going to put him? How does that work? What's really going on when he wants to dwell amongst the Jewish people? Are we talking physically? God doesn't have a body, right? Basic concepts. He's got no form, right? So how are you going to do that? So you have to come on to Kabbalah to explain this. Okay. But there are a lot of steps. There are a lot of steps this is going to take in order to explain how it works. That's the point, right? Now, I'm not saying you can't do it, right? It's like, I'll give another example. I'll probably give you a better example. When I was interviewing for a job somewhere in the States to be a rabbi of a synagogue, so I spoke at a Jewish community center. And when I spoke there, I said, what can I speak about? Well, what should I speak about? Maybe to draw people. So I spoke about the topic of reincarnation. Now, someone said, he went to the 5 aspects of the soul and this and that. I was like, no. I explained what happens with evil inclination. Explain what happens, when a person sins and how they're going to, have to pay back either in this world or the next world. And God gives them an opportunity if they didn't do what they were supposed to do in this world, they have an opportunity to come back. So I said, I'll probably speak 45 minutes just about how the evil inclination works, and how judgment works. I'm giving, I go on for hours on this topic. Yeah. But, I condensed it, short version, right? For 45 minutes. And for 10 minutes, I spoke about reincarnation. Right? But you have to give enough background in order to explain what the world is going on before you explain what the concept is, or try and explain what the concept is. It's a much harder thing because you're dealing with people with no reference point. Yeah, they don't know nothing from nothing. So you got to take some complicated thing And it's like, okay, first of all, you have this, then you have this. Then you got to go step by step by step by step. And you can only speak so fast, even for me, right? So you got to go step by step. You tell a few stories in between. And the first thing I said, after I was introduced, I said, by the way, I want everyone to know, that reincarnation is a Jewish concept. When I said that, like three people fainted. So I had to start off with that. Then I had to build it up, and step by step by step. It took me about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. 45 minutes to build it up, and then for like 15 minutes, I spoke about reincarnation, what could possibly happen. And then I took questions afterwards. But, if you don't do that, you start speaking from the top, no one will understand what you're talking about. They would have missed like, 3 or 4 steps at least, and then you already got to the final thing, thinking that they already understand what was building up to that point, which they don't, which that's what you have to do. So in any of these things, explain to people with little background. That's the job of the person giving over, is to give over in a way that that people can understand. And if you don't do that, you can speak way above them, okay, but that's not going to help anything. That doesn't do anything. There are people out there that like to hear themselves speak, which is fine. And they'll speak way above their audience. Like, how many people are going to get it? So they don't have to reveal everything. Okay. I can hear that. But if like 90% of the people leave, say, wow, that was so deep, but they didn't really get it, what's the point? I don't know if there's any point, except they want to hear themselves speak, and people are going to be impressed by what they say, but they don't really understand what they say. So, it doesn't, so it doesn't matter. Right. So anything complicated, which there are a lot of things, right? But anything complicated, like, if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, then no one's going to get it. You have to be able to give it over. There are people, that have great minds, they have brilliant minds, but they can't give over to other people. They just can't, because for whatever reason, they just don't have that. They don't have that ability, because they're just holding like somewhere else totally, and like, trying to explain something that's complicated, like in a basic way, unless you're holding there, like, not everyone has that ability to do that. So somebody wanted to hear someone speak. This person came up with his own ideas about a lot of different things. And so I said, when after you hear him speak, I said, tell me, shoot me a text, shoot me an email, just see like how it went. So person, after this whole thing, I get this text, and I said, wow, I came out more confused than I went in. I said, yeah. I said, they wanted to go. I didn't talk them out of it. Probably should have, but I said, okay, let's see what the person brings to the table. So he said, I came out more confused than I went in. So what does that mean? That means the person didn't know, wasn't, or let's say better, they probably didn't know anyway, but they didn't have the ability to give over in a way that people need to understand the concept, which means they themselves didn't understand the concept. That's pretty clear, right? If you can't give it over and people are going to understand it, then it's not clear to you, right? If it's not clear to you, then they're not going to understand, right? Then they're not going to understand. So I would say, people want to learn, all these esoteric things that they have no connection to, right? They have absolutely zero connection to whatsoever. Instead of basic things, which may not be as exciting. Okay. You can't make everything exciting. Some things more, some things less. But at the end of the day, as the Bishop Pirkei said, you have to know your place. And knowing your place in this case is you can't jump levels when you're not ready. Everyone wants to jump to the highest level first. Well, you got to go to like 50 different levels before you get there, right? If you ever get there, okay. But again, it's like studying higher mathematics. If you don't study the basics before that, you won't understand it. No matter how bright you are, you won't get it because you're missing important steps, right? And I can tell you, I see this all the time. Because people are impatient. I get it. I'm not saying they can't learn, about Jewish philosophy and, and other things, but things on their level. They, even something's like a little beyond your level, okay. But if things are like way beyond your level, then, you can say the words, you can repeat them, but you repeat them like a parrot. A person wants to be a parrot, okay. Yeah, they can do that. I think it's a waste of time, but, you got to take it step by step. I understand everyone wants to get the finish line, everyone wants to know everything, but, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you want. You got to do what's best, right? And you'll get more frustrated that way also, because you break your head on it and you say, I just don't get it. Well, there's good reason. There's good reason why you don't get it. Not just the person couldn't explain it. If they could explain it, you got to be able to, not just accept it, but internalize it and understand really what it means. And if you don't do that, then you won't get it. Again, a lot of these things, a person could, there could be different levels and it could be tremendously watered down and all that. Very good. Yeah, so you might get something out of it. It's not getting the essence of what it is. Right? The essence you won't get. Right? They say, so what's so bad? I would say, it's like, it's like there are 5 volumes. If you go to the 5th volume in the middle, you missed everything up until that point. Now, you might get something out of it, maybe. Not saying not, you might get something. Okay. But even if you get something out of it, you missed all the steps in between. And everybody wants to jump levels. And everyone wants to still, to learn everything. You got to take it step by step. Right? You got to take it step by step. So ornamental, a lot of it's taken out of context. Yeah. Also. It's kind of like what the Messianics do also. They cherry pick and take certain things and say, hey, look what the Jews did over here. But they're like missing like whole pockets of information. They're just going to say, well, see, they say this about non-Jews. They say not that about non-Jews. Okay, but did you look in the context? Did you read what was said before or not? Right? One example. Right? The Gemara says you can't, if a non-Jew is drowning on Shabbos, you can't save him. They say, see, we're not going to save non-Jews. That wasn't even the question. Right? The entire Gemara is going on. How can you save a Jew on Shabbos? What if you know he's a Jew? The whole point of saving on Shabbos will keep for future Shabbos. Right? Now, how can you say that? The question wasn't, you can't save a non-Jew. That wasn't the question. The question is, if a Jew doesn't keep Shabbos, how can you save him? That was the question. How are you allowed to save the Jew? So it goes through different things. And at the end, throws in a proverbial bone over here and says, oh, look, you can't save non-Jews. Drowning on Shabbos. Beautiful. That wasn't the point. That was totally not the point. You looked at one thing and say, see, they ain't non-Jews, they would never save them on Shabbos. Yeah? So the answer is, how are you allowed to save a Jew on Shabbos? No, but you're not allowed to save non-Jews, but that's not the question. That's the question after. That's the question 3/4 of a page later. Yeah, what was the question originally? How are you allowed to save a Jew who's doesn't keep Shabbos? How are you allowed to save? Say, oh, maybe he'll repent if you save him. Maybe. But he doesn't keep Shabbos now. Let's say. He doesn't keep Shabbos. So if the whole point of saving him is going to keep Shabbos in the future, and he's going to keep Shabbos, very good. If you don't know he's going to keep Shabbos, why should I save him? He just does great Shabbos for nothing. And then, by the way, what about a non-Jew? Non-Jew doesn't keep Shabbos. Right? They don't have to keep Shabbos, at least fully like a Jew. But, even if they're going to convert, they have to do something to break Shabbos. Very good. But that was the end. That was the end question. Yeah. So, they cherry pick. They take statements way out of context and say, see, this is what it means. But that wasn't even the question. I mean, there's so many different examples like that. And it's just, it's just unnerving. I'll give you another example. A secular Jew, grew up here. And so it was just before COVID, they were here. And they asked me a whole bunch of questions. This woman asked me a whole bunch of questions. One was about why other Orthodox Jews don't to the army. That was one question. Second question was about Naturi Karta, right? You got these crazy, quote unquote, ultra Orthodox Jews that, all right, they're not Zionistic, very good, but then they suck up to Arafat and Ahmadinejad and who knows what, and burn the Israeli flag, which I don't know if they have a problem with that either, but they do all kinds of other crazy things. And the third is about women wearing wigs and shaving their wearing shawls or whatever. Like these shawl women. Like these are the three things that like bothered this woman. Yeah. Two have no relevance at all. None. The women who wear these, shawls, the whole point, or these burqas or whatever, right? The whole point is, they want to be modest. You can't even see their figure or nothing. Yeah, but people are going to stare at them because they're wearing extra clothing for extra modesty. Yeah. So that's a problem. No one holds to them. I remember I was by my Rabbi once on, it was either Purim or Sukkot, on Passover or Sukkot, and went to see him, and whatever, my oldest daughter asked him this question about the shawl. Was like, nah, don't worry about it, it's not for you, got nothing to worry about, whatever. A week later, after the holiday, they made like a whole protest against them. Yeah, basically saying what they're doing was wrong, drawing more attention to themselves, which goes against the law itself. So anyway, 2 out of the 3 questions totally had no relevance at all. It's like, what about these Naturi Karta? What, all 5 of them? Nobody holds to them. Nobody holds to them at all. Yeah. So like, why even bringing that up? What does that have to do with anything? Yeah, nobody holds to them. The shawl women, nobody holds to them. Oh, the other question wasn't about the army. Well, that question came up. The other question was, how many secular Jews live in your neighborhood? That was the other question. So I was like, well, I said everyone's religious. Some more, some less, but like it's a totally religious neighborhood. So I was like, well, how many secular, people are you friends with? I said, well, not too many. I mean, deal with them when I have to. But that's why I live in a religious neighborhood. So the answer should have been, anyone who ever gets this question from a self-hating Jew, the answer is, how many Orthodox Jews live in your neighborhood that you hang out with? What's the answer going to be? 0. It's like Republicans won't live with Democrats. What Democrats are, Democrats won't live with Republicans. I mean, it's crazy. Right? It's a crazy thing. But you're going to say, oh, there are no secular Jews. Like ethnic cleansing, right? No secular Jews. They don't want to live here. They don't want to live here. Okay. So find somewhere else to live. They don't have to live here. Right? But that's not even the question. You're going to say, oh, come on. You don't live near any secular Jews. Oh, and you're living in a bastion of Orthodox Jews. Really? How many Orthodox Jews live in your neighborhood? Right around the corner from you. Same block. Yeah. So you want to say, oh, you're closed-minded. You're also closed-minded. But I'm not claiming to be open-minded. No one will accuse me of that. They'll accuse me of other things. They will never accuse me of being open-minded. Right? We're not, and that's it. But they don't hang out with Orthodox Jews. But that's really the answer. It's always good to answer an answer with an answer. Right? But, and what's their answer going to be? Nobody. Maybe they knew someone at work that was, whatever. Okay, don't live in your neighborhood. You're not living in their neighborhood because you don't want to live there. You don't want to live near Orthodox Jews. Next thing you know, they'll put a wig on you and shave your head. That's what you're afraid of. Right? It's also a crazy thing. It's only a small fraction of Hasidic women that actually shave their head anyway. So it's like that would never come up in conversation for most people in the Orthodox world. Yeah. Even in a significant number, it's only among certain sects of Hasidic that do it. Okay. I remember there's a whole thing about the whole pamphlet in the basin where my Rabbi head of the basin there, the rabbinical court there. An whole pamphlet of like different rabbis saying about women shaving their heads. It was on the table where they were sitting. And so he's like, get this out of here. I said, I can't. He goes, why not? He goes, it belongs to the basin. It's like, just get this out of here. I don't want to see it. I get it. Like, you didn't hold of it. If that woman has to shave her head, so again, it's among certain groups. Okay. Like, that's the biggest burning questions bothering you? That some Hasidic women shave their head, that bothers you? They do it by choice. They're doing it by choice. No, the brainwash. Okay. You know what brainwashing is? Like, really brainwashing? That's trying to tell a 7-year-old they're in a different body. That's brainwashing. Oh, no. That's education. Wait, no. Yeah, Pink Floyd reference. Anyway, I don't want to get carried away here. But yeah, crazy questions. Obviously trying to make you look bad, right? But these questions, most of these questions have no relevance at all in Jewish life. None. They just want to show how stupid it is. But if nobody holds by it, so what are you arguing about? Anyway, yeah. Somebody asks, 1 second. Someone asks, you always have to be happy serving Hashem. Oh, that's what we say every day. We pray it every day. Even as Hashem b'simcha. Yeah. Even as Hashem b'simcha. So how do you be happy? Right? How do you happy? How do you be happy when life's beating you down? Good question. So maybe it should be all more, should be more Hasidic. We should all sing and dance a little bit more. You got to see the bigger picture. It's not always easy singing the bigger picture. When you seem to get beaten down in life, I tell people, very, very simple thing. And the simple thing is write 20 things. I said 10, but you can write 20 things on a piece of paper that you're thankful for. They're like you're really thankful for. One of them will be health. Yeah, that's one thing to be thankful for. Victor Miller wrote like 250 things, 250 different things of things he was thankful for about, the human body. They've had backaches, could see, didn't have any hearing problems, like all kinds of things. They had prostate problem, didn't have cancer, didn't have this, whatever it was. And every so often you look at the list. Because no matter what's going on, you can say, well, it could always be worse. Well, how much worse could it be? Yeah. And I'm always reminded by this because no matter what you go through, God can remind you and show you there are people in worse shape, much worse shape. I see every so often, someone, whatever, a young adult, blind. Yeah. Trying to navigate traffic and this and that. People have to help them and whatever. Or you see people that are, let's say, mentally challenged, in different ways, have physical ailments, other things. So one day I was like, I was feeling kind of down, whatever. I'm on the bus, I see someone get off the bus, and somebody is mentally challenged. That's an understatement. And I won't go through all the gruesome details, but they basically had to be helped off the bus, and whatever, and severe physical problems. Probably, mental issues also, but severe physical problems. After I saw that for like a few minutes, it took like a few minutes for the person, be helped off the bus, they could barely walk and whatever. I looked at heaven and I said, okay, I got the message. Got the message. Yeah, I would say very clearly, write things down you're thankful for. You got a roof over your head. Even if it doesn't belong to you, even if you're renting, doesn't matter. Even if you may never own, or it may take you 20 years, 50 years to own. Okay, whatever. Yeah. You have a roof over your head. Not living on the streets. Go to India. Kids, families, whatever. Poverty. Go to other places in the world. Or worse. So yeah, but it doesn't belong to me. And okay, we can always complain. Yeah, when it's freezing cold. Yeah, it's freezing cold out, and you're nice and warm inside. Yeah, and you see, there are homeless people and other things. Forget why, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Living on the streets. Now there are people that have to live in the car, have to this. I mean, there are stories. Okay, some have gone through it. Some, thank God, probably never go through it. Okay, million things to be thankful for. Million things. Right? The problem is, what's the problem? The problem is we get beaten down in life. That's the problem. Right? That is the problem. So when you get beaten down in life, it's hard to see the good. It's very, very hard to see the good. Because you feel like you're always suffering. Yeah, somebody asks, when another person gets hurt, something bad happens. Okay. Is it allowed and okay to think this is what Hashem wants? Everything is for the best. So the truth is that even if we see something good, let's say the opposite. You saw something good. Now, in the end, it could have been bad for you. Right? In the end, you see something that's bad, could end up good. There are a lot of stories, both ways. Right? So, yeah. If it, I would say better, or I'd say different. Let's say something bad happens to us. How do we look at it? Forget what happens to someone else for a second. What happens? Something happens to us. We say comes to a time, right? Or we'd say like Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva says, "Kol Avid Rachman Ovid." Everything that God does is for the good. His Rebbe Nachum Ish Gamzu was on a higher level. He said everything is good. He was a paraplegic and he lived in a hovel and he had sores all over his body. Yeah, that's a different level. It's a higher level. Okay, so you see something that happens, to someone else. You're right. You can say that. There's a benefit to this. People don't suffer for no reason. Sometimes people suffer brings them to higher levels of emunah. Some people suffer just the opposite. It brings them totally down. Right? It depends on the person. But we don't believe anything bad happens. Right? Only good comes out of heaven. We just don't always understand, even if it looks bad. Right? Even if it looks bad. Right? There is benefit. Right? So is that a problem? Right? Is that a problem? Right? That you say, well, another person gets hurt, which looks bad. This person say this is what Hashem wants. Yeah. What if the person, let's say, we'll say a little bit different. Let's say the person did something they were reckless. Now, is that what Hashem wanted? Not what he wanted. But the person themselves were reckless. Let's say they injured themselves and other people being reckless. Did God want that? Well, obviously he wanted it, right? Because he used that person as the messenger. But in reality, right, that's true. Because God has a lot of messengers. A lot of messengers God has, right? So we look at those messengers that sticks, right? You hit a dog with the stick. Who does the dog go after? The stick, right? So we do the same thing. Something happens to us, we go after the person. Very good. The person's guilty. Okay. But God's using that person to get to us. Very good. But what if the person's reckless? What if they do something that, they never should have done? They're out of control. Yeah, and they have an effect on someone else. Is that good? I don't know if the person's reckless. DUI, person driving under the influence. Yeah. And he kills people or he injures people. Well, is that what God wanted? Well, God took these people out of the world. He took them out that way. Is the person guilty? Sure. Sure, the person's guilty, but God took them out of the world. Why? Don't know. Right? See, the problem is we look at all these things and we say, oh, the person died of cancer, the person died of this, the person died of that, and they suffered. Yeah, it all looks bad. Right? It can all look bad. But what's the bottom line in all of this? God took them. The angel, the evil inclination, the angel of death, whatever you want to call him, can't do anything unless God wills it. So God says, I'm going to take him this way. Why? No idea. But that's what God wanted. So it's not a question. It's not a question of, we'll say it looks bad. We'll say it looks bad. But in the end, God took them because that's the way he took them. It doesn't matter how they died. God took them that way. Sometimes it looks bad. Sometimes it looks good. Yeah. Sometimes a person just dies in their sleep. Okay. Some other people suffer. Good. Right. But so nothing bad comes out of heaven, as the Chofetz Chaim says. We just don't always understand. So if someone causes damage, so the answer is, if someone causes damage to someone else, is that what Hashem wants? That's what he wants. Person who could get punished for doing it, right? But that's exactly what Hashem wanted. He used that person to get to them. Right? It's sometimes it's hard to see. It's hard to see the good, when people suffer. Because, we don't have the eyes to see. Right? We don't have the capacity to understand. Someone asked, what can a person who has specific Yisurim do to improve their mazal, their heavenly influence? What do you do to improve it? I would say, learn more Torah. Learn more Torah. And do acts of loving kindness. As much as possible. Torah Torah protects a person. The only thing that hurts a person is sin. Right? That's the only thing. So a person also, what they have to do is they have to realize God's the only one in charge. Hold the bubbles in the gate of taking self-accounting. He gives 30 reasons why you have to take self-accounting. The last reason he says is that you have to look at you and God in the world and no one else. So the Chol of the Bubbles asks, it says in Duties of Heart, he asks, come on. So why do you need other people there? Why do you need other people in the world? It's only you and God. What does that mean? It's only you and God. It means that nobody can do good or bad. I'm going to repeat this. Nobody can do good to bad to someone else unless God wants them to. God doesn't want them to, they can't touch you. Yeah. So someone's bothering us, other things happen. Obviously, God wants it to happen. But the relationship between you and God is exactly that. It's you and God in the world. Right? So how are you going to improve? What are you going to do to improve? I say I'm going to work more on modesty. Okay. I'm going to work on not speaking Lashon Hara. Okay. I'm going to work on learning Torah. I'm going to work on helping others. Right? The point is to understand that the Yisurim, the hardship is there to fix us, is there to help us, there not to break us, there to make us who we are, sometimes just to bring out something dormant, a dormant character trait that wouldn't come out otherwise. Kind of like God squeezing you like the bottom of the toothpaste. But when someone goes through it, what happens? They become stronger. They should become stronger. Right? I know some people got hit, with so many different things. Livelihood issues, health issues, everything all at once. Right? And it's like over and over and over again. Right? So the person says, wow, person in the process of conversion. Why would I want to convert? Look at all their suffering. But if you think about it, the suffering they go through, this person became so strong in Amunah, unbelievably strong in faith and belief in God. Yeah? Like so unbelievably strong. They're going to say that had no purpose. It made them who they are today. And still makes them who they are today. But you say, but life is so hard. But their level of Amunah is so much stronger. It's like 1 billion times stronger than had they not gone through it. 1 billion times stronger. Can't you say, well, how much worse can it get? You don't ask that question. Nobody asks, we say, Al tiftach pen l'satan. You don't open your mouth to Mr. S. Oh, yeah, how much worse can it be? You don't want to know. It could be worse. Right? The question's perspective. So sometimes God has to do certain things to us. We don't get the message. So he'll squeeze us, but it'll make a person stronger. It potentially will make a person stronger. Then they have the ability to guide other people because they themselves have gone through it. But they went through a hardship, tremendous hardship. Okay. Right? Sometimes that's the case. But, a person has to be stronger in Torah. They have to be stronger, in helping others. Right? That, that's the base. Anytime you go through things, I would say also say Tehillim. Say as many, Psalms as possible. That can invoke divine mercy, also. Right? But I would also say anyone who thinks they're going through a hard time, just read the book of Psalms. Look what King David goes through. His father-in-law, King Saul, wants to kill him. His son wants to kill him. He's always running. He's always fighting. To the extent where he had so much blood on his hands, he wasn't allowed to build the Beis Hamikdash. If you look at Psalm 27, what does he say? We say that in the entire month of Elul up until the last days of Sukkot. Right? He says, all I want to do is dwell in your palace, dwell in your house. That's all I want to do. Sit and learn. Give me the ability to sit and learn and dwell in your palace and work on my character traits. He's busy running his entire life. So again, everyone has what they have to go through. You look at the patriarchs, what they went through. Abraham went through 10 tests, right? Says one of the best for last, circumcision. Like, come on. Sacrifice the son. I mean, he went through a lot of hardship. Yeah, but look what it became. That's what God wants. He wants to mold us, to become greater people. And sometimes he has to squeeze us. in so many different ways till we get the message, right? But sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you feel like, you're so beaten down in life that, it's impossible. We want to, the problem is we can't bribe them. That's the problem. Can't bribe them. Sometimes a person could really pray from the depths of their heart. Listen, if you do this, I'll do this. Blineta, right? Without making a vow. Right. And from the depth of your heart. And a person really feels not just saying the words. Yeah. It's always good also to say, hundreds of times during the day, no matter where you are, God, you're the one in charge. Nothing I do matters. You're the one in charge. I can't do, I'm stuck over here. You're going to help me. Not my problem. You'll help me. You're the one in charge. You may not deserve the help, whatever. You can invoke mercy. Say, you're right. I've made mistakes, whatever, but you're the only one I can turn to. When a person says that, right? When a person says that, it changes who they are. Changes the way they think. When a person feels a lot of different negative emotions, negative emotional state. Someone says, how are you doing? Is it honest to reply, I'm doing great? You can say that. You don't have to, you don't have to say what's on your mind, in general. But let's say a person's going through real suffering. I had this problem when I lived in the States that, you go into a you walk in the store. I remember I walked in the store once and I had three people there saying, so, how can we help you? I was like, I'm Bob, Jim, Fred. I'm like, Bob, Jim, Fred. I was like, pleasure. Like, what do you need? Oh, I need some batteries. I need this. I'm like, but, and they're like taking me here, taking me there. Like, but like, if they ask you like how you are, you can say, you really care. I've wanted to do this many times, but I don't want the repercussions of doing it. You can say, you want to know how my day was? You really want to know? You want to know what I'm going through? They're like, I just wanted to see how you're doing. Like, no, they don't care. Dropped out of a heart attack. They still don't care. Yeah. It's all false, it's all fake, it's all flashy, it's all bother me, superficiality, bother me. Still bothers me. Right? Oh, how are you? Can I help you? I'm like, you care? Really? I should tell them what I'm going through? I don't think so. Yeah. Listen, if it's someone you're close to, you want to tell them what you're going through, you can. Even if you're feeling down or, if you're feeling down or lonely, you can do that. Also friendly when they ask you how you're doing, you can say, good. You don't have to start that conversation. You sure don't have to start that conversation, right? You say, well, it's a lie. Okay, but, that doesn't mean you have to open yourself up to every person. Oh, how are you doing? Right? So I think, you really care? You want to hear? How much time you got? How much time do you got? Come on. Tell me. I'll tell you my story. They're like, I just asked you how you were. Like, so you see they're not interested. It's all superficial, right? A lot of it's superficial. So even if a person's feeling, down in the dumps, you don't have to tell them that. If you want to tell them that, you can. You don't have to. You don't have to based on the Torah says mitvar sheket tirchak, right? You're not allowed to lie, right? It's true. You're not allowed to lie, right? In this case, I don't have to tell them. I don't have an obligation. Why do I have an obligation to tell them? What's really going on. Yeah, you don't have to tell them. If you want to, you can. I'm not saying you have to, right? It's certainly not an obligation to, right? For Jew or non-Jew, right? That wouldn't matter. Yeah, let me see other questions. Somebody asks, add your daughter to Felix. Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, any other questions? All right. If there are no questions, I'm going to sign out. I just every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Israel Time. Anyone has any questions, you can find me on Facebook at Michael Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I get videos on Q&As, ethics for our fathers. Book of Leviticus, you want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHIMCOFFMAN@gmail.com. Wish them a good beginning of the day.